And so where are you currently in the process of Our Prince William?
Well, it started with folks, as Jim said, specifically working for various organizations or with them. And it's grown sort of apart from specifically those organizations and into more of a group of people. Many of us are leaders, have leadership roles in those organizations. But really, we think that everybody in Prince William County is part of Our Prince William, because that's the whole idea. It's about who we are as a community and what we do. So what we're working on right now is the formal process of what kind of legal formulated organization are we going to become, whether that's a 501c4, a civic association, whatever. So we're doing that, and probably even more important is after we film this segment today, we're going off to have our first social event, and that's going to be a happy hour at Giorgio's Wine Styles, and we're inviting members of Our Prince William, everybody who's signed up to our Facebook page so far, and inviting them to come out, share some wine tasting with us, and tell some of our stories together.
Great. Did you want to add to that, or you're just ready to get to the Giorgio's part? Is that?
I'm ready for the wine.
So then, what will be your next steps after tonight? Tonight's a social gathering, and you're going to kind of, I guess, see sort of how you fit together and what roles each of you might be interested in taking. So what will be your next steps after tonight?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, first, I guess I should back up a little bit too and say sort of who these organizations that we talked about, that we found ourselves be together and collaborating together, who we are. And so we include all of the human services organizations, whether they're serving disabilities or whether people with disabilities, whether they're serving the low-income population, the homeless population, special needs individuals, the arts and culture in the community, the educational system, recreation. I think maybe the overarching term might be the quality of life. Folks who are focused on quality of life. Certainly what you do with Keep Prince William Beautiful is, an important part of what makes our community great. So that's what's in it. And
I'm not with Keep Prince William Beautiful anymore. I'm so sorry.
Keep Prince William Beautiful is
it's easier to say than NEABSCO Action Alliance
but
too.
But the NEABSCO Action Alliance is, you get the point. It's those people, those groups of people, those organizations, those interests that have at their core making the county a better place. And our message is, first of all, the good things that are happening, but second of all, how much all of those organizations, even if they don't realize it, how much they depend on each other in order to be successful. Jim has a good way of talking about that.
And I think that's the key, the interconnectedness. And I would share just briefly, if I may, a story as a classroom teacher in Prince William County. Without even realizing it, through students that I have taught in the 17 plus years that I've been in the classroom in Prince William County, I've come in contact with each of the organizations that Betty's talking about, whether it's, again, mental health, the human services organizations, the arts council organizations, those types of things, through my students. And I could go on and on and on with stories of the children that I've taught, and the connectedness, if you will, that they have brought to me, to the other organizations that we're talking about. And I think part of our goal is to first of all highlight that connectedness in a much broader sense to the entire Prince William community, and then encourage others to interrelate, to connect with the various organizations, to hopefully enhance the services that they provide, which in turn will enhance the quality of life here in Prince William.
Can you kind of give me an example of that? Because I'm trying to envision, how you might connect the arts to the homeless situation, for example. what comes to my mind right off is that you might host a fundraiser to support homeless initiative. But is that what you have in mind, or am I on the right track with that train of thought?
That is certainly one aspect. There's very often folks in the arts community, one of the things that they do perhaps better than most is to be able to provide the basis, if you will, for doing a good fundraiser that can then, support these other organizations. But it's also a little more direct than that too, because as I'm sure you know, many of the people who are being served by organizations such as ACTS and SERVE, who find themselves in very dire, very difficult situations, those individuals, there are a lot of reasons behind why they are where they are.
That's right.
And in many cases, they have a need to express themselves or to find outlets beyond the desperate circumstance they find themselves in, that the arts can be an incredible part of. In my day job, I work for Did Lake Incorporated, and we serve people with disabilities. Many of the people that we serve are people who cannot communicate in the way that you and I can communicate with each other. But many of those individuals can find amazing ways to tell what they're feeling and what their stories are if they have an opportunity to express themselves through the expressive arts.
That's
and
interesting.
So that's a very direct connection right there.
I can see that education would be a big component, would be an advantage. Many people who are homeless have not had education, or have had to shorten their education, or not been able to complete it. And there is another, that I have worked at homeless shelters, and I have some working knowledge of the situation. I understand not everyone can be helped, but there are so many different avenues and so many different individual circumstances. And I'm particularly intrigued that Mendhouse and Habitat for Humanity are part of this organization, because not too long ago I talked to, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was here to do an assessment for strategic goals for Habitat for Humanity, and we talked about some possibilities of housing, temporary housing for homeless people. And I really would like to see something come out of that, more than just a discussion, but some concrete plan. Do you have some first steps, some what you see as a pressing need, or you haven't reached that point yet where you would?
I think we're still very much in the organizational stage, really trying to organize ourselves, or constitute ourselves, if you will, as a viable group, a viable organization, to do many of the things that you were just referring to. We need to get, although there are a great many positive things in the county, there are still a great many needs within the community. And in order for us to begin addressing those needs, we have to first begin with the conversations. Okay, here is what I do in my role, in my work role, if you will. Is there some part of the experience that I've gained in my work role that I can use as an individual to assist you with the work that you do, so that we can address this common need that we have together in the county? So. Again, very organizational at this point, and then we will begin formulating our strategic plan, most likely,
Yeah, I guess
at
that's
some
the best
at
way
some
to put it,
point.
yeah.
At some point, because our ultimate goal is, again, to enhance the quality of life. And in order to do that, we need to be able to address needs, and obviously addressing needs within the community is much easier if you do it together.
So you've already attracted a pretty large number of residents or citizens to your group, of over 100, correct?
On the Facebook page, we're closed in on 200 right now.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you have a goal, or just is the goal to get everybody in
Everyone.
it?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I really use that term, our Prince William, literally. It's our community, and I think that, if you talk about specific goals, Jim said we're very much trying to be getting it's organizational right now. But if I was going to be a little more direct for what we're thinking and talking about right now, it's this concept that we are so interconnected, and what we would like is for the people that join with us and the people that we're talking to in the county to embrace more of that holistic approach. It seems that sometimes, we talk a lot. We're always in a county. You have to allocate your budget. You have to allocate your priorities. You have to make choices. You can't do everything for everybody, but you can probably do a really great job of making those choices intelligently when you're able to think about the community as a whole. When you're able to understand the impact, for instance, just a direct impact. We're in the county, we're going to be facing in the next couple of years, if we don't deal with it sooner rather than later, a big shortfall in funding for the bus system.
ERTC.
And we can talk a lot about why that might be. But if we just think about, the bus system, what's the issues with that? We're not telling even the beginning of the story. Right. Because the bus system is an incredibly integral component of what I would call the safety net part of our county. It's not just the way that people get to VRE to commute to DC. It's the way that people who otherwise don't have any available transportation get to their job here in the county, or get to the doctor, or
and I'm pretty sure there's a pretty large segment of the population that's not seeing that. They're not thinking of that.
Exactly.
They're not cognizant of that, and so in addition to all the other work you have cut out for you, you also have public education. That you are going to have to educate people and make them see what we said earlier. You have to step outside of your job, step outside of your everyday life, and look around you and really see what's going on, because you may see that bus go riding down the road and it's packed full of people, but you're not thinking, those folks are on their way to work. They don't have any other way to get there, or they have to go to the grocery and they don't have any way to get their groceries home.
Right. Yeah. And I think I think you've hit on, that's sort of the single biggest objective or task that we have in front of us, is to help people see those connections and understand what it means to them personally.
Well, you really have taken on a gigantic role. I don't know if you've grasped it yet, really.
Yeah, we don't do small.
I was just thinking about this. You know how people, if you touch people in a certain way, they want to help. They open their hearts, they open their pocketbooks, they're right out there with you. But they do things like, for example, there's a terrible flood, and everyone rushes and they pack up goods and furniture and clothing and they ship it to wherever the flood is. But the poor people who have survived the flood have no homes. Right. So they have no place to put the furniture or the clothing or any of those things. So not only do you have to educate people, you have to gently discourage them from acting on their own and being part of a bigger picture, because they mean well, but they really are creating more work and less opportunity. So
and I think that's, in a very real sense, is a lot of what we're about. It's really getting groups, organizations, and individuals to communicate with each other.
And direction.
To more fully understand what the needs are and what is available. One person or group may not understand that, although they specialize in a specific area, they don't have all the means with which to address the issue that is facing the community at that time. But in working in concert with other groups and organizations and individuals who have other talents and focus and other focus, we can have a much greater chance at success in addressing community needs.
Okay, well, I don't want to keep you from happy hours too much longer, so I want to ask you if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share. Betty?
Well, I think I was just sitting here as we were talking, thinking a little bit more about how I could make this concept a little more tangible and specific. And I was looking outside here at your beautiful yard and the beautiful neighborhood that you have here on this finally beautiful spring day. And I was thinking about, so folks in this neighborhood, they look like they're pretty comfortable, and they hopefully are living comfortable and happy lives, and they might not feel like they're hearing us talking, well, I don't need any of that stuff anyway, what does this mean to me? And I think, well, probably if you had a graffiti problem in your neighborhood, you'd be unhappy about that, or if there was a gang problem, and that's something that we do worry about in this community.
Sure.
And so what are the things that, and that can affect anyone here directly, so what are the things that maybe prevent that from becoming an issue? Well, it probably starts in the school system, because if you're having kids who are getting educated, and guess what, if they actually are in a classroom size that's small enough so that their teacher can pay attention to them, maybe they're focusing on more positive, directing their energies to more positive things. But if outside of the classroom they need some assistance, there are agencies throughout the county that they can turn to, whether it's they need, some folks have something as maybe as simple as a speech problem that if it isn't addressed for them, it turns into depression, it turns into all kind of other issues that go in a negative direction. But yet one small and pretty inexpensive intervention can make the difference in the life of that person, whether it's giving them access to art that makes them feel differently about themselves, or whether it's someone who's got a drug problem and has a way to get away from drugs that doesn't involve being integrated into a gang.
So what percentage of the 85,000 children do you think we might be talking about? I mean, we have a huge school system, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but what percentage or what number of students, is there any way to even get your head around that? Like 10%?
Well, I'm going to say 100%.
You are an optimist.
Well, 100% of the people in our community benefit from this kind of approach. I guess that's where I'm going.
I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if it's, I don't know, Jim knows much better than me what percent of the kids are officially at risk, but we're thinking more globally about our community being not being at risk and keeping it that way.
I think the at-risk population within the school system is much larger than a lot of people might think. But keep in mind, at-risk isn't just restricted to economically disadvantaged. And I think unfortunately we're seeing that in many places across the country. The result of children that are technically at risk, whether it's mental health issues or physical health issues and those types of things. And so again, you go back to the analogy of the bus going down the road with the packed full of people, and very few of us, and I say us, take the time to consider what does that represent. That represents a diverse part of the population of this county, whether it's someone going to the doctor, whether it's someone going to the grocery store, whether it's someone going to their job. And without that bus service would not have the ability to do that. That's another person who's on public assistance and those types of things. And if we're truly working together, and we are in many ways, but what we're hoping to do is really enhance that cooperation and that working together by making more people in the community aware of the benefits, both the economic benefits, obviously, because in working together we can achieve things at a much lower cost, but primarily at the emotional benefit, the social benefit, the quality of life benefit.
Well, we're certainly going to try to help you tell those stories. We're going to be
Appreciate
here.
it.
We're back in production, and we're thrilled that we had you for our first guest. Next week, Shana Burt is going to join us, and although I'm pretty sure she's coming to talk about Arts Alive,
She is.
I think I could possibly squeak out a little bit about our Prince William, and you're certainly welcome to refer anyone else that you'd like, because we love to share those good news stories.
I think we're going to have
Great.
a lot of good stories to talk about.
I think so.
All right.
So
Thank
we
you
look
very
forward to
much for coming,
Thanks, Connie.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next week.
All right.